back to the UK Thrashers radio show. We hope all of you that went to Bloodstock had a fucking awesome time. In this week's show, we are joined by Overthrow. So let's start off with one of their new tracks. This is Pure Death.
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
Overthrow, more from them later in the show. Before then, a band from New York whose debut EP 48 Hours Till Termination was recorded in just 48 hours. This is Electrocutioner and Terminal Simulation.
Population entertained right before they die. Oh!
Okay, next up, our mates from Barnsley, about to celebrate their 15th year as a band. This is Dislocator, Addicted to the Pit.
What you sent for, body healed as you submit. Feel the heat within the pit. Tyranny, soul damned eternally, body broken, now restored, immortal, vengeful God. Feel your mind split, you're addicted to the pit. No, you won't quit. You're addicted to the pit. Feel your mind split. You're addicted to the pit. No, you won't quit. You're addicted to the pit. Demon, revived, while your servants sharpen knives, thrones twisted at your will, my machine for the kill. Feel your mind split, you're addicted to the pit. No, you won't quit. You're addicted to the pit. Feel the mind split. You're addicted to the pit. No, you won't quit. You're addicted to the pit. Shall decide who shall live, who shall die. Take the plunge to the pit. Give yourself unto it. Lazarus shall decide who shall live, who shall die. Take the plunge to the pit. Give yourself unto it. Feel your mind split. You're addicted to the pit. No, you won't quit. You're addicted to the pit. Feel your mind split. You're addicted to the pit. No, you won't quit. You're addicted to the pit.
Termination's hammer. You're listening to the UK Thrashers podcast. Whoa, yeah, yeah,
yeah. Okay, this week in the virtual studio, we are joined by London Thrashers Overthrow. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries. Do you want to introduce yourself and say what you do in the band and give the rest of the guys a name check as well?
Yeah, sure thing. So my name is Jay White. I am the rhythm guitarist and vocalist of Overthrow. The other members of Overthrow are, we have Alex Harris on lead guitar and backing vocals. We have Alan Yordaki on bass guitar, and we have Scott Lindsay on drums.
Nice one. So Overthrow as a band, how long have you guys kind of been together and play music together?
So Overthrow started in 2011 with a completely different lineup, and we've obviously, over the course of sort of the last 10 years, we've gone through numerous personnel lineup changes and sort of stylistic changes, with myself being the only founding original member left. But yeah, it's been basically pretty much almost to the day, actually, a decade since we formed back in, I think it was our first gig was, because I use our first gig as our sort of like band anniversary. I think it was around the 24th of August. So we're actually coming up to almost to the day, a decade since since Overthrow has existed. So yeah.
So you said yourself as kind of the only surviving founding members. What's everyone else gone off to do? Kind of real life jobs and kind of families and all that stuff, or are they just kind of drifted away to do other things?
Yeah, kind of a bit of both. Yeah, just, you know, people have kind of come and gone, or they've been into it for a while, and then decided, actually, you know, I don't really want to do it as a kind of a serious sort of full-time thing in the way that I want to do it, obviously. And yeah, I just think, you know, people are into it, and then you know, they decide later on down the line, actually, it's, you know, it's not really for me, and that's fair enough. And yeah, like you said as well, people, as we grow and sort of, you know, quote unquote mature into sort of adulthood, yeah, people's priorities change. They want families, they want jobs, and it's like, yeah, cool, you know, fair enough. And I've always had a kind of like an open door policy with like members. Like, I want to always sort of, you know, stay sort of, you know, amicable and friendly with the guys. And, you know, if they decide, hey, you know, I'm not really into this, then fine, no problem. I mean, you know, I've not really had an issue with finding people to sort of replace them. And I'm still pretty friendly with, you know, quite a few of the former members. So yeah, it's fine, really.
So kind of on that note, you know, obviously being in London, you find kind of musicians not too much of a problem, I guess. At least you're in the kind of the heart of the city, so you haven't got, you know, it's not the worst place to live to find musicians, I guess.
Yeah. I've never, and also being, you know, yeah, born in London, born and sort of raised around sort of North London. I was born in Camden, and I've worked in Camden as well for on and off for the past sort of 10 years in various bars and venues and places like that. So obviously meeting musicians over the course of, you know, my my, you know, adult life, yeah, they've always just been friends of mine as well. So yeah, it's never been too difficult to find people, and also meeting different people who are into different kinds of music as well, and just, you know how it is, like, you know, they just become part of a network, part of a community.
Yeah, definitely. So what about the band itself, Overthrow? You know, what's the kind of the main influences and the kind of for those who haven't heard the music, although I've started the show with one of the tracks, you know, how do you describe kind of what you guys do?
I mean, if I had to put it in like a short, sort of sharp sort of soundbite for you, we're, you know, a black sort of black metal inspired thrash death metal, I would say. So we're kind of an amalgam of all of our favorite sort of influences from black thrash and death metal, all sort of incorporated into one, with, you know, a healthy sort of respect for heaviness and, you know, brutality and emotion, but also melody as well. So we try to incorporate quite a lot of different elements of heavy metal into this one sort of cohesive entity, I suppose.
And I guess in, you know, the current climate, that's quite a rich gene. You know, there's a lot of black and thrash, black and death thrash. You know, that is kind of the kind of, I guess the mix of those music seems to be much more prevalent now. You know, even though I guess, you know, way back when no one really cared so much about the genres, but you know this, you know, then we went to, is you were clearly a thrash band, you were clearly a death band, you were clearly a black metal band, and it seems to have been, the boundaries seem to have been kind of made a little bit looser again in the last kind of decade.
I think so, yeah. And the other thing as well, you know, going back to what I said about how I would define ourselves, I find this out by talking to fans and talking to people like yourselves, like journalists. Oh, you guys remind me of this, you remind me of that, you remind me of that. So it's like, okay, cool. You know, I think of us as, you know, just a kind of, just a big, we're I mean, in essence, we are a heavy metal band, but we have so many different sort of influences. It really is hard to, I think it's really difficult to put us into one sort of category. And I really like that as well, that you can't really say, well, they are this, but you know, they've also got a bit of that and a bit of, you know, bit of whatever. But for me personally, my main thing is I want to be a band that writes songs. That's my sort of main sort of concern. And whether it's, you know, more sort of black metal inspired songs or more traditional heavy metal inspired songs or death or thrash, doesn't really matter to me, because as long as it's a good song, that's all that's all myself and the guys, the rest of the guys of the band are sort of concerned with. We're not really that concerned with fitting into any particular one or two particular sort of genre or subgenre. We just kind of just do our own thing and make sure that the four of us love what we do. And then leave it to sort of everyone else to sort of
to find the pigeonholes.
Exactly, yeah. if they want, yeah. So.
And I think you see that obviously that you've just over the last few weeks you've released the first two singles from the new album, and they're both, you know, they both sound like you guys, but they're both, you know, quite different, I guess. In you know, right. Whereas you know, Pure Death is definitely towards that death metal-y sound, and you've got some of that kind of soaring black metal guitar going on in there, whereas, you know, Seeds is a little bit different. So did you pick those two specifically to kind of lead the way to show that diversity?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was a totally conscious decision that we wanted to, like you said, we wanted to pick, you know, two songs off the album, which first of all, we love to hear and play. Songs that we thought would resonate with our fans and also sort of grab new fans who maybe are not familiar with us, but also, as you rightly put, that sound like us but are completely different. So it was, yeah, definitely a conscious decision, excuse me, to pick those two in particular. Pure Death as well, because it's probably the shortest song we have on the album. We tend to write quite like fairly longish sort of songs. Like our average song lengths are about 5 to 6 minutes. So we knew for Pure Death, we wanted, you know, a short kind of 3 and a bit minute sort of single to sort of as a kind of like a gateway drug into the band, if you like. Yeah, a bit of an attention getter. Yeah. And, you know, and obviously we put a lot of hard work into the video and yeah, we just thought it would be a really, really good, sort of because obviously, like I said, you know, the band's been going for 10 years, but we haven't really had too much to sort of show for it. Whereas now we've got the album sort of, you know, about to be released, and we've got all these videos that have been released and are due to be released. For a lot of people, you know, we are kind of this band that's been around for ages, but then on the other hand, there are people that are only just discovering us as well. So we want to make sure that we're making an impact for our sort of existing fan base, but also grabbing new fans as well. So, and that's why we thought, well, Pure Death and Seeds are probably two really good representations, but also contrasting representations of Overthrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely a conscious decision.
If you're trying to kind of show yourself off in a couple of songs, they're probably a good kind of directly kind of comparable songs to kind of give you you're going to be somewhere between here and here, depending on which track. Yeah,
I mean, they both have different feels, and they both have different, they carry different, you know, like weights to, like, Pure Death is more the sort of, you know, thrash sort of circle pitting, you know, banger, and then you've got Seeds, which is just this real, like, heavy sort of oppressive kind of dirge, like sort of black and death metal epic. So
yeah, with a bit of a doomy throw in there as well. You know, it's got that kind of, you know, not in a you know, Black Sabbath played really slowly doom feel, but you've got that kind of that opathy deep sound in there.
Right. So yeah, you get it. It's like that. We because we listen to so many different kinds of music, including, like you said, like I listen to a lot of doom and a lot of sludge when I'm just at home, sort of relaxing or whatever. And I hear that in Overthrow, but it's not so sort of obvious. But when you compare Seeds to like Pure Death, then yes, you can hear a bit of a sort of a contrast there, and some of our other influences there that you mentioned. So yeah, it does kind of cover that sort of spectrum of, you know, what we look for in good metal, but also just good music and good songs in general. So yeah, absolutely.
So you queued up for, I saw on your YouTube page, the third video is kind of queued up for a premiere, I think, next Friday. Yeah. So what's the third track that's coming out?
So the third track that's coming out is a track by, which is called Altar of the Fallen. And it's actually the last track on the album. And I believe it's the longest track on the album too. And we wanted to, showcase that particular song because it's just got a real, like, epic, sort of triumphant, grand, but also real, like, sinister and but also fast, thrashy sort of atmosphere about it. There's a bit of everything in that sort of one song. That's kind of like, for me personally, and I think also, for the other guys, that's kind of, I think we can all agree that that's probably one of our favorite songs to play, because it's just so, like, imperious and just conveys a lot of you know, power and emotion, and we put a lot of work into the video as well. That's the only video we've got where there's like a real sort of like there's a narrative behind it. There's a bit of a story and a bit of we've actually got an actress in it as well. So it's a bit more. And also the location that we filmed the video in is a really nice, big sort of, but without giving too much away, there's a lot that's sort of gone into it. And yeah, we just love the song. For me, it's the quintessential Overthrow song because it's long, it's epic, it's about 7 minutes long, and it's got basically everything that is representative of Overthrow in that song. So we thought that's why we decided to put it at the end of the album as well, because it's a great, like, set finisher as well.
Yeah, to either make it go back to the start or kind of
and it also doesn't sound anything like Pure Death or Seeds. So that's why it was also a conscious decision to have 3 singles that are still us, but they showcase different elements of us. But I think Altar is for me, it really represents us and what we're about in a song.
Okay. Nice one. So a couple of weeks after that kind of final single of the run of the 3 comes out, obviously the new album comes out. Do you want to how many more tracks? Do you want to give us the name and kind of what other tracks are on there? Kind of just a quick synopsis.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the album is going to be called Strike Down the Savior, and that is going to be coming out on Friday, the 10th of September. That'll be available in physical, obviously, CDs, and it'll be available online on Bandcamp and Spotify. So there are going to be 9 tracks on the album altogether, with a runtime of about 55 minutes, I think. Yeah, you've got the first song, which is a number entitled Premonition. That's how it starts, which was just kind of just basically just a real, like, you know, punch in the face sort of thrash, black and thrash sort of dissection sort of number to kick things off with a lot of, you know, just real like uplifting sort of black metal melodies going on. And then you've got Pure Death, which we talked about, which is obviously out sort of in the public now. Then we've got kind of an amalgam of really kind of old songs that have existed sort of since the early days of Overthrow, which we as a band have kind of refined over the years throughout the various sort of different lineups to the point where they're at now with this lineup. We put them on the album. So we've got one called War Within You, which is quite an old song. And you can also hear kind of some of like the sort of stylistic sort of differences in the more sort of songs that were written more recently and the ones that were written sort of 5-6 years ago. They're all kind of songs that have been written at different periods of the band's existence, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's an older one, War Within You. It's just another sort of straightforward kind of melodic death metal, thrash metal, fast number. Then, excuse me, there's a song that I wrote many years ago with our first drummer, which is called I've Seen Them Die. And that's a real, we've been playing that song for quite a few years, and that goes down really well live because it's a real kind of mid-paced, like bang your head sort of like thrash metal stomper, really, really simple riff. And it's got a real like hard sort of black metal element to it as well. But the lyrics are kind of delivered in a more kind of like, I don't know, like a more kind of hardcore sort of Hatebreed kind of way. So it's good. That's sort of another sort of amalgam. And I get people coming up to me after gigs going, "Oh, I love that song. I've Seen Them Die." You know, so we felt that had a place on the album for sure. Then there's a song called Relentless Aggression, which was actually written by our former guitar player, and he gave us his blessing to use that on the album because it's another, it's just another sort of epic kind of thrash anthem, but it's also got some like kind of weird black metal section in the middle as well, which we worked on with this lineup, and it's also in a different key, so we thought we'd change it up a little bit and not stay in the same sort of key. But yeah, then I'm just trying to think off the top of my head without cheating and looking at the track list. Then we've got a song called Shots Fired, which is just a straightforward, just brutal like death metal, just banger, which just makes you want to kill all your friends, which is great, which we just love. And it's got more of a kind of like behemoth kind of imperious kind of vibe to it. That also goes down really well live. Then I believe it's the title track, which is Strike Down the Savior. And that's my kind of, that's my attempt at writing just a real, like, just straightforward melodic thrash metal epic, which has existed for about, I think, 8 or 9 years. And it's evolved over the course of the past, like, sort of decade and whatnot. And there's a lot of, it's really fun to play, and it goes down really well live. And it's just a real, like, straightforward, like old school sort of Bay Area, but like sort of modern melodic sort of anthem to it. Then the last 2 tracks on the album are Seeds of Disease, which we talked about, and also The Fallen. So that's pretty much the album. And it's structured in a way that, because I'm still a huge fan of the album format, and I like when excuse me, when an album is kind of like structured like a set list. So that's how we structured the songs, and we picked like the track listing to sort of reflect how we would do it if it was going to be like one of our live shows.
I was going to ask you that, because obviously, you know, with the kind of the rise of Spotify and things like that, you know, is the album as an end-to-end format still something that you focus on? And obviously the answer is yes, because you just told me. But, you know, I guess it also, all the songs need to stand up in their own rights for when they kind of pop in shuffle mode.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could play these songs, I think, in any order, and it would still carry the same amount of gravitas and weight if you listen to it from, you know, number 1 to number 9. It's just like my preference or our preference as a band, like we talked about it, because I think it is quite important, if you are concerned with the album format, that you want to make it a sort of cohesive structure, particularly if you're doing, I mean, it's not a concept album, it's basically a collection of songs. But we feel that, you know, if you listen to it in this particular order, you know, you get a kind of sense of the live experience if you were going to come and see us, because, you know, it has that momentum, you know?
Yeah, that ebb and flow that you need to get through a set.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, ebb and flow, exactly. But I mean, you could absolutely, you know, stick it on you know, Spotify or Deezer or whatever, and hit shuffle, and you'd still get the same experience, and you'd also be able to discern that, you know, oh yeah, this is the same band playing, even though all the songs have different ebbs and flows and different sort of cadences and whatnot. So yeah. It's up to the listener, really. It's really just our preference. Again, we do whatever we do, we're trying to please ourselves, and we want to make it awesome for us. So
and that's the best way, isn't it? You know, if you spend your whole life trying to please everyone else, you'll just go fucking mental. So you might as well just make yourselves happy.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think like the you know, first and foremost, you need to please yourself. You know, and if other people are happy with you, then great. You know, if they're not, great.
Yeah, they'll get over it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So obviously, it sounds like this album's kind of pretty much the journey of the whole band's life cycle. Really, as you say, you're bringing tracks in from old. What about the recording process? Has all this been recorded, you know, remotely, or have you guys managed to get in the studio? Obviously, we're coming to hopefully the back end of the whole COVID kind of crisis, but how have you managed to kind of get together and get this album down?
So we first started recording the album right at the very beginning of when COVID pretty much hit and the first wave of sort of lockdown and restrictions happened. We did the drums the weekend before the whole country basically went into a lockdown. So fortunately, it was a bit of a mad rush to get all the drums sort of done, but we knew that we had to do it because, you know, the future was looking pretty grim and pretty uncertain as well, because we had this schedule that was, you know, going into, you know, the rest of 2020. But we knew that, you know, that was going to obviously sort of backfire with everything that was going on in the world. So it was a case of, you know, our drummer, Scott, you know, really working under pressure, but, you know, he got it done. And so we were quite, you know, relieved, because as anyone will tell you, you know, I think recording drums are probably the most sort of time consuming and can be one of the most stressful parts of the recording process. But, you know, all credit to Scott and to Sam Thredder, who was our producer engineer at the Crow's Nest studio, which is his like home studio in sort of South Croydon, where we did all the recording. We got it all done in the weekend just before the restrictions sort of hit us. And then basically we were hit with restrictions. We couldn't do anything for about, I think, like a couple of months. So that kind of shut down recording during that period. But it was okay because, you know, we knew that, okay, well, you know, we've still got time to kind of refine and fine tune some of the guitar parts. I was also having a little bit of apprehension about my vocal performance. So I was thinking, well, okay, this is kind of a blessing in disguise, because now I can really kind of, you know, batten down the hatches in my home studio here and, you know, really work on my technique before I go into the studio, you know, because I don't want to go into the studio and sort of try things. I want to go in and like know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question, that was the first sort of phase, was, you know, getting the drums done. Then we had a bit of a break. Then, if I recall correctly, then we did all the guitars pretty quickly. I had been basically holed up at home, and I've been, you know, for all intents and purposes, writing and playing the album for the past 10 years. So I like to think I'm quite
knew most of it,
quite adept at it. Yeah. So, and it was, you know, without, you know, trying to sound too sort of arrogant, it was like a piece of piss recording the guitars, because you know, I'd really like knuckled down and worked on all my parts. I did all the rhythm tracks on the album as well, all the harmony parts. And then Alex came in after I'd done all the rhythms, and he added a couple, or he did all his leads, all his solos, and he added a couple of other sort of like lead parts as well, because I think we quad tracked all the guitars. So there's obviously a wall of guitar on that, on that album, as you'd expect. Then we did the bass, and again, that was just like a couple of weeks later over you know, I think we did that in like a day and a half. And then lastly, we did the vocals, which we had to get done in the last sort of, in like a 2-day sort of, you know, last ditch sort of session, which I was still quite sort of apprehensive about, but it was like, no, you know, you just got to power through, get it done. It is what it is. And I think on the first day, whether it was nerves or whatever, I only managed to get through about 3 songs, and thinking, you know, oh, you know, how am I going to get through that? And then the next day, I just managed to sort of get it together, power through, and just did all 6 remaining songs on the last day. So it was
down to the wire.
It was pretty down to the wire, you know, and we were all experiencing a lot of, you know, a lot of stress and a lot of sort of personal, like, what can I say? We all experienced like personal sort of tragedies over the course of the year through various illnesses and you know, sort of separate from what was going on with COVID and whatnot, and not just the 4 of us, but also our producer Sam. He was going through a bit of a rough time during the making of the album as well. And yeah, it was just one of those, you know, we just had to kind of muster the will to get through it, because, you know.
Do you think that helps at the end? You know, do you think at the end sometimes you just need that deadline and you've got to kind of, you know, put your big boy pants on and fucking crack on? Otherwise, you could procrastinate about things forever. If you,
absolutely.
You still be doing vocal tracking now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We need that, like that, you know, going against the, you know, looking at with the clock ticking and whatnot. Yeah, we need that sort of pressure, because that's how we deliver the goods. You know, it's like, it's got to be done. We're not going to sit there and be like, oh, you know, well, you know, we need more time. It's like, look, it is what it is. Just fucking get it done, kind of thing. Yeah. And that really did help. I know that really helped Scott, and it definitely helped me as well, because we knew that this was a unique opportunity, and we weren't going to let some silly fucking pandemic get in the way. And I know it sounds, you know, like whatever, but that was really my mentality. It was like, look, I don't care if the world is like on fire. Like, we're getting this fucking album done. Yeah. And that was,
if it's the last album that ever fucking comes out, it's going out.
Basically, yeah, like by hook or by crook, we're going to get this fucking thing made. And again, it was like not trying to, you know, bury our heads in the sand with what was going on around us, because we were all experiencing, you know, real personal fucking shit, you know. But we used the making of the album to channel that negative energy into something positive. And I think, and I've actually made a documentary on the making of Strike Down the Savior, which is going to be released around the same time as the album as well. And I think I say in the documentary that the sort of immense pressure and the immense kind of anger that we were all feeling during the making of the album, you know, everything that was going on around us, I think that really comes through when you hear the songs and the performances, because we are really playing as if it's like you know, the last thing we're going to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think you always hear that in music. You know, I think, you know, as bands sometimes get bigger and, you know, especially going back to like the 80s where bands became proper rock stars and were, you know, they had no more worries. Then the anger goes from the music, and you can tell those albums that were recorded, you know, on the beach in Jamaica, or you know,
absolutely,
you know, when there is no. But what can you be angsty about when everything's fucking rosy?
Yeah, exactly. It's like we were at the point where it's like, well, look, like, you know, we haven't got anything to lose. This is our first album, you know, we've got that. We just so badly wanted to get it just done so that we could say, look, we are legitimate now. We finally got something to prove, you know, our sort of, or to justify our existence in a way. And we were so adamant that we were not going to let this, you know, COVID situation, you know, fuck up this plan that we've been planning meticulously for months. We had to work around it, obviously, but at the end of the day, I knew we were going to get it done, and we did, and we're you know, really, really, really pleased with the result.
Do you think that's a real issue? You know, is that if you're a band and you've been a band for a while and you haven't got any material, like, so you see a lot of young bands rushing to get stuff out. You know, actually probably before they're ready. You know, they turn the handle so fast. You know, rather than you know, might have done a demo back in the day. That demo's out and public, and you know, it's so easy to create something and get it onto Spotify. And you know, do you think? Is there that balance that, you know, fucking hell, you've been going for 10 years and you've only just put an album out? What the fuck have you been doing?
Yeah, I mean, there's two things. So I think, you know, there are bands that are very quick they just want to get something out to sort of, you know, legitimize themselves in a way. Be like, oh, look, we're a band. You know, we've already put out like, I don't know, an EP and an album or 4 releases in the space of like 2 years. But I think that's the case of, you know, that's quantity over quality. So I would much rather be in the position that I am now, having spent essentially my whole sort of adult life from the age of 21 to 31, making this album what it is, than having, you know, put out 10 releases in a year. Do you know what I mean? So
that you're not 100% happy with, and kind of don't really reflect what you're capable of.
Exactly. And I'm a bit of a workaholic, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and as are the other guys in the band as well. And you know, we are all so precious with our, you know, wanting to release something that is the absolute best that we can possibly do. Like there's no, it's all killer, no filler. There's no room for sort of, oh, well, it's okay. It's good enough. Now, fuck that. Yeah. Now we're never ever gonna sort of be one of those bands. So, and that's not to say that there are bands that bring out lots of material in a short space of time that are also good bands, of course, you know, obviously. It's just the way that things have worked out for us, with obviously, I think, personnel changes and, you know, life sort of getting in the way. But it, you know, it is what it is. And you just got to, I think you got to worry more about the quality of what you're bringing out rather than how much you're bringing out. Cause then you're just, what are you? You're just like a sausage factory or something like that. Just, you know, because your friend next door has released like 10 EPs in a year doesn't mean that you should, or that you should even compare yourself to him or her. You should compare yourself to yourself. And I think that's kind of it.
The best you can do. Yeah, sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
So back onto the album, obviously, you're releasing just as the kind of all the restrictions are starting to disappear. Have you got a launch party planned? Have you got some gigs on the horizon?
Yeah, well, so basically, I mean, it's not all confirmed yet, so I can't really talk too much about it, but there is going to be an album launch, hopefully in the first week of October. And we are, so we're planning on doing the launch then. As I said before, the album will be out on the 10th of September. So within a month of the album coming out, we should be doing the launch in the first week of October. As I said, it's not confirmed, so I don't want to don't jinx it. don't want to jinx it, you know, but it'll be, yeah, within a month of the album sort of being launched. And yeah, I'm just really, all four of us are so like desperately hungry to get back on stage, because that's where we really shine, I think. And that's I also think is what has kind of sustained us for the past, like, you know, eight and a half, 9 years, because obviously we haven't really played for the past like year and a half. Just, you know, our reputation for playing live has, you know, sustained us, and we're putting a lot of rehearsal time even now into you know, making sure that we're you know, we're on point for when we launch the album. So yeah, we'll be back playing live very, very soon for sure.
Cool. Finally, do you want to give all the relevant plugs? Remind everyone the name of the album and the release date and where to get it from, and yeah, kind of pimp your wares, social media, and all the other good stuff.
Yeah, sure thing. Okay, so yeah, our album is called Strike Down the Savior. It's going to be released by us, Overthrow, self-released, because obviously we're unsigned. It's going to be out on Friday, the 10th of September, 2021. We're going to be releasing it on Spotify. It's also going to be available via our Bandcamp, which is overthrowmetal.bandcamp.com. We're also on Instagram at Overthrow UK, and we're also on Facebook. It's overthrow_UK or overthrow brackets UK. What else? Oh, we also have a Big Cartel store where we sell our merch, and we're also going to be selling our album as well, which is overthrowmetal.bigcartel.com. Or if you just Google Overthrow Big Cartel, I think we're the first one that comes up. And yeah, I think that's it, basically. Cool. Oh, and also, yeah, if you want to check out the videos, we have a YouTube channel as well. It's Overthrow. We've got about 105 subscribers now. So if you subscribe and you click the sort of alarm bell thing, you'll be one of the first people to hear the new or see the new video. And we're going to post the making of the documentary on there, as well as the album as well. So yeah, there's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Big Cartel, and Bandcamp for Overthrow.
Nice one. Jay, thanks for joining us. Good luck with the album. Can't wait to hear the rest of it. And yeah, hopefully see you live sometime before Christmas.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Cheers, mate.
Thank you very much.
This is the second of those 3 new Overthrow singles. This is Seeds of Disease.
And when you're standing blind
Okay, that just about wraps things up for another episode. Thank you as always to all the bands that let us use their music. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you to Jay from Overthrow for joining us in the virtual studio. We're going to play you out some Detoxen. This is Thrash Till Death.
Circle adrenaline of night, your master is calling. Stealing and hiding the meaning of life, I'll thrash out at you.